I loved Zoe for a full decade. I supported him, elevating him from a poor boy to a rising star in the business world. But after just 3 years of marriage, he schemed to bankrupt my family, and then brought his true love into our home. Overcome by anger and heartbreak, I suffered a heart attack and died right in front of him. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in college, standing before a donation box for Zoe. Chapter 1. Zoe's friend sneered beside me, his tone harsh. Linda, don't think donating $10,000 will make Zoe notice you. Exactly. Zoe doesn't want you or your money. I paused, withdrew my hand from the donation box, and tucked my bank card back into my pocket. Calmly, I replied. Fine, if he doesn't care, I won't donate. No need to upset you all. Zoe came from a poor family, with a mother who was seriously ill, so our class organized a fundraiser for him. And I, foolish and wealthy, had planned to donate a card loaded with $10,000. Among the red and green bills, it stood out prominently. Most of my classmates admired my generosity, but Zoe's friends accused me of insulting him with my money. So be it. If they took it as an insult, then I'd spare him the offense this time. Then Zoe's true love, Santa, piped up. This is a donation for Zoe. How can you just say you're not donating? Lively and from a poor background herself, she often used their shared hardships as a way to stay close to Zoe. I chuckled. You all despised my money and didn't want my donation. Now that I'm respecting your wishes, why are you unhappy? Shasha's face turned red. You were the one who insulted Zoe with money in the first place. Which is why I'm taking it back, to avoid offending him again. Or would you prefer I insult him twice? Everyone knew that I, a rich girl, had been chasing poor Zoe. My change in attitude left the whole class silent in shock. San, apparently clueless, suddenly seemed to understand something. Oh, you're worried giving him so much money in front of everyone will hurt his pride. No worries, you can just give it to him privately later. I glanced over at Zoe. His gaze was fixed somewhere distant, silent as if he had nothing to do with any of this. Just like in my past life, he watched coldly, as if the money weren't for him at all. I sneered. I'm not afraid of hurting his pride. Since you said you don't want it, then don't take it. That money would be better spent on dogs than on you. At least a dog knows how to wag its tail to please me, while Zoe only knew how to stab me with his words. Chapter 2. Zoe had good looks and grades and had come from a remote village to be the freshman representative. One glance, and I was captivated. Though his high school grades were top in his province, here at this prestigious university, he wasn't among the top performers and couldn't earn a high scholarship. The small scholarship he did receive barely covered his living expenses. Even with poverty assistance, he couldn't pay his tuition, making life in the big city a struggle. Other girls, seeing his situation, wouldn't approach him, even if they liked him. Only I was foolish enough to bring him meals every day, transfer money into his account every month, pay his mother's medical bills, and buy him new clothes every season. You could say his food, clothing, and shelter were all on me. He was practically under my support. But he never showed me a kind face. When his resume came to my family's company, I pulled strings to get him a position. With his abilities, he wouldn't have made it into white group otherwise. I even proposed to him. Even in modern times, it's rare for a girl to propose, especially to someone who clearly doesn't love her. But I was in love. I promised I'd fund his business startup. For someone like Zoe, from a humble background, it was an irresistible offer. He agreed. During our 3 years of marriage, he wasn't as cold at first. At least he spoke to me decently, and I rarely saw Shasha flaunting herself before me. I thought he'd come to value me, that he'd finally noticed my worth. How foolish I was. All he did was act considerate to keep me happy, while he drained my finances and emptied my family's company to welcome his true love of 10 years. That day, Santa Cradwiteg her belly, smiled gleefully. I'm 3 months pregnant. Your family is bankrupt, and you can't help Zoe anymore. If you know what's best for you, just sign the divorce papers. Oh, if you hurry to your company, you might still catch a last look at your father. She showed me her phone, streaming a live feed of White Group. "Look, everyone, up there on the rooftop. That's the chairman of White Group. The company's bankrupt and the chairman's about to jump. Hey, Mr. White, are you jumping or not?" Days of overwork had left me short of breath. "Linda, if not for you, Zoe wouldn't have taken down your family's company so quickly." Shasha's voice dripped with malice. Recently, the company was facing a wave of problems. I'd thought it was a temporary crisis, but it was all part of Zoe's long-laid scheme. All those nights, working without sleep or rest, it was all thanks to him. My vision went black, and I fainted. As I slipped into unconsciousness, I vaguely heard Zoe's gentle voice. "Shasha, don't tire yourself. Go sit down. What about Linda? It's better if she dies. Don't worry about her." Chapter 3. I really lost my life and truly regretted it. In this new life, I swore I would stay as far away as possible from Zoe, protect my parents, and safeguard the family business. As for Zoe without my money, I was eager to see how he would fare. I thought he would eventually come crawling back, but I didn't expect it to happen so soon. The very next day after the donation, he blocked me at the classroom door. Zoe casually extended his hand. I bypassed him and walked straight into the classroom. "Linda, where's my breakfast?" he asked, his tone demanding. "What breakfast?" I raised an eyebrow. I don't make a habit of supporting people. Zoe's expression darkened. "What are you playing at now? Do you think that by not donating or bringing me breakfast, I'll suddenly start paying attention to you?" I flicked his arm aside. "Why are you blocking my way? Seems to me, you're the one trying to get my attention." He quickly pulled his hand back, his face now even more somber. Zoe was proud, taking my money all the while resenting me for trying to win his favor with it. Every time I transferred money to him, he would mock me afterward, warning me not to harbor any illusions. Yet he never refused the money, nor offered to return it. It was as if he believed I owed him something. His friends were no better, looking down on my rich girl behavior while happily accepting the money I gave him. Zoe believed they were true friends, but they were simply after my wealth. Hypocrites. But this time, Zoe walked away empty-handed. His friends, eager as always, surrounded him. "Zoe, what's for breakfast today?" Zoe cast a quick glance at me but didn't speak. I didn't know what Zoe liked to eat, so I'd always brought a variety of breakfast options, hoping he would choose one. He'd then share the leftovers with others. But this time, I wasn't going to give in. One of his friends saw Zoe eyeing me and slammed the table, snapping. "Linda, you didn't donate, and now you won't even bring Zoe breakfast? How selfish!" Bothered by their interruptions, I shot back. "What? Do you want me to support you for life? How about you all start calling me Dad, and I might consider continuing to fund you." Another friend's face turned red, but they still pushed back. "It's just breakfast. You're rich, can't you spare a little?" I took a moment to size him up. "You know, you kind of look like a beggar asking for alms." Zoe, who had remained silent up until then, finally spoke, his voice cold. "Enough. I'll earn the scholarship myself. I don't need your charity." I looked at him. It was the first time in 10 years that I heard him speak with such dignity. I couldn't help but laugh. Zoe's face darkened further. "What's so funny? You think I can't do it?" "Oh, nothing. Good luck. I'll be watching." If he could do it, why hadn't he done so before? Because he couldn't. I had been supporting him so he could focus on his goals. But even with all the help, he had made no progress in his studies. It was clear he was simply mediocre. Chapter 4. I sent Zoe his living expenses every month, and he always spent it all. Whenever he received the money, his friends would swarm him, asking for him to treat them, and Shasha would always subtly hint at how hard things were for her, so he'd end up buying her gifts or sharing the money. Looking back, I was like a saint, supporting a whole group of people without even having my own family. But this month, I didn't send any money. Zoe's mother was critically ill and urgently needed funds. The class donation wasn't enough, and even his living expenses weren't going to cover it. When the driver picked me up, he asked as usual, "Miss, are we going to the hospital?" Every weekend, I'd visit Zoe's mother and cover the medical bills. I shook my head. "No. Go home. We're not going anymore." "Don't ask again." The driver looked surprised, but quickly nodded, turning the car around. He had gotten used to the routine of going straight to the hospital after picking me up, but from now on, that wouldn't be the case. As soon as I arrived home, I received a call from the hospital. "Miss White, the medical fees haven't been paid yet." The hospital's contact person had put my details down. "You should ask Zoe about that. I won't be paying for him anymore." I ended the call quickly, and just as I did, I heard my father's voice from behind, full of surprise. "Yun Yun, you're home early?" For a brief moment, my eyes filled with tears. In my previous life, my father had suffered from health issues due to overwork. He was always so strong, raising me on his own. Even when the white group faced crises, he'd fought through them. But on that day, he chose to jump off the building. I knew that in the end, he just didn't want to burden me anymore. Seeing that I hadn't responded, my father hurried toward me. "What happened? Have you been wronged? Is it that Zoe kid? I'll talk to him." I quickly stopped him. "No one can make me feel wronged. I've cut ties with him." He froze for a moment, then suddenly let out a relieved laugh. "Ah, you've finally seen through him. My daughter is smart, and she figured out his true nature so quickly." He had always known that Zoe wasn't right for me, and had tried to warn me. But I had been too focused on Zoe, and all he could do was try to protect me in his own way. In the end, all his efforts had been in vain. I took a deep breath and shifted the topic. "Dad, I saw Uncle and the others posting on social media, saying you need to focus on your health at your age. Tomorrow, I'm taking you for a checkup." He nodded in satisfaction. "All right. My daughter is taking care of me, so I'll do my best." While he was undergoing his checkup, I went to pay the fees and happened to see Zoe and Liu Shasha pleading with the doctor to extend the payment dead Whitey, asking if they could receive treatment first and pay later. With the receipt in hand, I walked up to the counter to join the queue. Santa, sharp-eyed as always, immediately noticed me. "Doctor, the person who's paying is here. She's over there. Can you start the treatment now?" Liu Shasha eagerly pointed at me. I rolled my eyes. Honestly, she must be a few steps behind. I had already made myself clear before, and yet she still didn't get it. Ignoring her, I proceeded to pay for the checkup. The doctor glanced at the system and shook his head. "No payment has been made. Stop trying to fool me. You should focus on how to raise the money instead. I have other things to attend to, so I'm leaving now." Just as I was about to walk away, Liu Shasha grabbed my arm. "Didn't you pay already?" I nodded, nonchalantly. "Yes, I did. Then why did the doctor say you didn't?" I looked at her, confused. What does Zoe's mother's doctor have to do with me? I paused, then pretended to realize something. "Oh, I get it. You want me to pay for him, right? Well, dream on. I'm not running a charity." Zoe furrowed his brows, looking troubled. "You used to pay for this. Now that you're refusing, what about my mom? She's your mom, not mine." I said indifferently. "It's your mom, so you figure it out." Zoe's face twisted with frustration. "If you want to be with me, let my mom be your mom too. Pay for the medical bill, and I might consider making you my girlfriend." I took a step back. "That's not how this works. My mom is already dead. Are you implying that you want your mom to?" Liu Shasha screamed. "Linda, you're evil. You want Auntie to die." I quickly waved my hands. I didn't say anything. It's you who suggested it. If you're so desperate to save her, then pay for it yourself. I've got things to do, so I'm leaving now. It's not that I was heartless, but every time I visited Zoe's mother, she always treated me like a bank, trying to calculate how to get more money from me. Even after I married Zoe, she would always tell him to transfer money into her account. Such a person? She wouldn't get a second chance from me. After accompanying my father through all his checkups and carefully noting down everything the doctor said, I was determined to make sure he stayed healthy this time, not just physically, but also financially. His career had to be protected as well. Chapter 5. Zoe, meanwhile, was working multiple jobs. Not only did he stop treating his friends to meals, but he also stopped giving money to Shasha and even started demanding repayment from them. He kept a meticulous record, calculating each penny and insisting on repayment. The outcome was unsurprising. His so-called friends vanished, but Shasha remained by his side. She probably thought I was just angry and would eventually help Zoe again. She couldn't be more wrong. In the classroom, she shamelessly said to me, "I know you're jealous because of me, but don't worry. Zoe and I don't have anything going on. You can keep supporting him. Right now, Zoe really needs money. If you give him 10,000, he'll definitely be with you." 10,000? I laughed dryly. How shameless. Who was it that said he didn't need my charity? And who do you think you are, saying this to me? Besides, with 10,000, I could find anyone I wanted. Why him? I gave Zoe a scornful glance. Someone so full of pride but completely useless. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Zoe walking toward me, his movements stiff. He clenched his fists, his face pale with exhaustion. With a humwittig expression, he said in a low voice, "Linda, you've won. I'll be with you. Just go pay the medical bill." I scoffed. Why so reluctant? Did I force you? When did I ever say I wanted to be with you? He took a deep breath, closing his eyes for a moment. You like me, right? I agreed. You stopped giving me money, stopped bringing me breakfast to force me into this. You've succeeded. Are you happy now? I froze, then coldly said, I'll tell you this now. I don't like you anymore. You're poor and useless. Why should I keep liking you? Stop pestering me, always asking for money. Understand? Zoe wobbled, looking disbelieving. Impossible, even if you don't like me anymore. Can you help me one last time? The money I gave you should be enough for the medical bills if you had saved it. But you blew it all, giving it to others. Don't blame me. If you want money, go get it back yourself. His face drained of color as he reached out to grab me. Linda. I stepped back, avoiding his grasp. He collapsed to the floor. A chill ran through me as I remembered how I had died in front of Zoe in my past life. It was the same, him standing there while I fell. Zoe! Linda, you're too much. You made Zoe faint. Shasha shrieked, rushing to check on him. Zoe's breathing was steady, he wasn't dying, just unconscious. Disgusting. I kicked him lightly. Hey, wake up! He didn't budge. The classmates crowded around, murmuring, but no one stepped forward to help. I scanned the room and pointed to Zoe's usual entourage. You guys always eating for free. Time to pay back. Take him to the infirmary. Why should we? You made him faint. I sneered. You spent all his money, made him work himself to the bone until he passed out. Do you want me to call the police and have them see if you owe anything? After all, it's my money. I have every right to get it back. They immediately shut up, reluctantly lifting Zoe to carry him away. Before leaving, Shasha shot me a venomous glare, her face twisted with resentment. What was she so upset about? Chapter 6. I remembered how she always played the role of a troublemaker between Zoe and me. Whenever I wore something new, she would remark, Linda is so lucky, born into a rich family, always having new clothes to wear. Not like us, we have to watch every penny. Right, Zoe? When I carried a new bag, she'd casually say, "Is this a luxury brand?" "Zoe, I bet you've never seen anything like it." "Neither have I, she's from a completely different world, her experiences are so different from ours." Even when I simply bought a cup of milk tea, she'd have something to say. "This milk tea must cost a small fortune. I've never had anything like it." "You probably look down on the cheap drinks Zoe and I usually have, right?" I tried to explain, but Zoe never listened. Instead, he only grew more resentful, convinced that I was flaunting my wealth and looking down on him. Santa, however, always seemed so pleased with herself. I had everything, yet I couldn't win Zoe's heart. She, on the other hand, had less but somehow managed to be close to him. It was as though she had taken something from me that I could never have. And then it hit me, she was simply jealous. Jealous of my better family background, and trying to gain something from me by getting close to Zoe. She would always flaunt the gifts Zoe had given her, gifts bought with my money. The watch she wore, for example, was one I had given to Zoe, but he had given it to her instead. With feigned innocence, she would ask, "Oh, this is the gift you gave Zoe, isn't it? He didn't like it, so he gave it to me. You don't mind, do you? Or should I give it back? I guess you wouldn't want it after I've worn it, right?" Zoe would shoot me a cold, piercing look, and I wouldn't dare say a word of protest. Anything I said would be wrong. In front of him, I had lost all sense of dignity and pride. I rarely gave gifts to others, but he could so easily give away the ones I had given him. And then I realized I hadn't bought anything for myself in a long time. All my living expenses had been saved to cover Zoe's mother's medical bills. Chapter 7. While Zoe lay in the infirmary, I went to the mall. I wanted to celebrate my escape from misery, and the best way to celebrate was shopping. But I didn't expect to see Shasha. She should have been in the infirmary taking care of Zoe. I quietly followed her and saw her enter a luxury watch store. She blushed and told the salesperson she wanted to return a watch. I stood at the door, watching her get rejected. She didn't have a receipt. I had removed the tags and receipts from the gifts I bought for Zoe to protect his pride. Shasha looked embarrassed and turned to see me. I watched her with amusement. Her face turned red. "You're here to laugh at me, aren't you?" I nodded honestly. She got angrier. "It's all because you stopped giving Zoe money, forcing me to return his gifts. Is it really for Zoe, or are you out of money yourself?" I glanced at the escalator behind her. She quickly denied. "What are you talking about? I don't need money. Then why come when he's sick?" Shasha choked, then gave up. "Since you figured it out, why ask? I hate you, and I got close to Zoe to disgust you and get some money. After all, it's your money. I took your man and spent your money. Are you happy now?" I smiled without saying anything. She got more agitated. "You're rich, so what? Zoe doesn't like you. His mom doesn't like you either. She wants me as her daughter-in-law. Zoe is poor, but only you are foolish enough to give him money, which benefits me. Shut up." Zoe stormed over, his face pale. I had seen him earlier, waiting for him to hear his true love's heartfelt confession. Zoe didn't immediately question her but anxiously looked at me. "Linda, I like you. Don't listen to her nonsense." Chapter 8. This was a joke. In 2 lifetimes, 10 years, he never said he liked me. He even hated me enough to destroy my family. How could he say such words? I had seen how he treated someone he liked. He was gentle and considerate to Sanabit when I died in front of him. He only cared about Shasha's comfort. He never treated me that way. I helped him secure investments, got drunk and sick, and he didn't even offer me a glass of water. On my birthday, I bought myself a cake and asked him to come home early. He used work as an excuse and stayed out all night. His mother, thinking she could be a wicked mother-in-law after our marriage, always treated me with disdain. I endured it, and he never defended me. For him to say he liked me was an insult to the word. I felt disgusted. I mocked. "Do you hear yourself? Santa, holding the watch, panicked. Zoe, are you sick? She's not from our world and won't treat you sincerely. You're just her plaything. Zoe glared at her. Stop saying that. You always tried to turn me against her. I was wrong about you. Santa, desperate, clung to his arm. I was just angry. I wanted to upset Linda, not really dislike you. I quietly watched the drama unfold. Santa, losing everything she could take, was desperate to salvage it. And that thing was now declaring its loyalty to me. Ridiculous. While they argued, I slipped away unnoticed. Chapter 9. Zoe's disgusting confession reminded me not to be soft-hearted. I had given up my scholarship application before, allowing Zoe to barely make the cut. I also included him in competitions, even if he couldn't contribute, so he could get a participation award. I reapplied for the scholarship and switched to individual competitions. I called my assistant, instructing him to follow the proper procedures for our company's scholarships, without giving Zoe or Shasha any special treatment. White group scholarships were the highest, and neither Zoe nor Shasha met the requirements. I had previously ensured they were included. Initially, it was just Zoe, but Shasha shamelessly grouped herself with him, implying that not helping her was looking down on them. To please Zoe, I included her too. A few days later, the scholarship and aid lists were announced. Unable to find her name, confronted me. Linda, why did you remove Zoe and me from the list? Does white group only listen to you? Doesn't it? I smiled. You didn't qualify. Without me, you wouldn't have been on the list before. What about the scholarship? Why didn't Zoe get it? I shrugged. Poor grades, not my fault. You're so rich, why compete for the scholarship? Classmates gathered, whispering. I laughed. Who did I take it from? Did I take your spot? A classmate raised a hand. No. My grades aren't good enough. Even if you didn't apply, it wouldn't be me. I'm in the top 3. You can't take my spot. Fair competition. No steewittig. If you're not good enough, don't blame others. We're civilized people. Zoe entered the classroom, and Santa, seeing her savior, forgot their previous conflict and rushed to speak for him. Zoe, Linda took your scholarship and aid. She's so evil and selfish, knowing you need it for your mom's treatment. Zoe pushed her away, coldly saying, It's none of your business. She's not evil or selfish. I didn't meet the requirements. You're the one causing trouble. Santa, shocked, stared at him. What? I'm helping you. Didn't you say you needed the scholarship? Zoe looked at me. Shasha was unreasonable. I'm sorry. Santa, gritting her teeth, glared at me with hatred. I felt a chill, sensing something bad. Chapter 10. Zoe asked to meet by the lake. I didn't want to go, but he said it would be the last time he bothered me. We would go our separate ways. When I arrived, he was staring at the lake. Linda, I had a dream. In it, you weren't like this. You donated, supported me, and married me. He turned to look at me, testing. Since he first said he liked me, I felt something was off. His defense of me in class was even stranger. Now his probing confirmed my suspicion. I continued. And then I died, right? You caused it. Zoe had also been reborn. He dropped his pretense, revealed the composure of someone who had risen to power, but now tinged with anxiety. I regret it. I regret not saving you. It's my fault for being insecure and letting Shasha manipulate me. I thought she was my true love, but after marrying her, I realized she only wanted my money. She never loved me. Only you were sincere. I said indifferently. That doesn't matter anymore. There's no sincerity left. Zoe's eyes reddened. Can you give me another chance? I died too. Shasha pushed me off a cliff, claimed I fell, and inherited everything. She even got a lover. We both died. We're even. I mocked. You killed me, not the other way around. How is that even? He pleaded. Then kill me once. Linda, let's start over. I'll treat you 100 times better than Liu Shasha. I truly regret it. After I died, I realized how good you were to me. I looked at him with disgust. You don't need to think about it. There won't be another chance. But I'm curious, how thick-skinned are you to say such things? Are you trying to live off me? You can hit me, scold me, I deserve it. Just don't abandon me. Zoe looked like an abandoned puppy. So my dream was real. Since you both came back, let's die together. A sharp, venomous voice interrupted. Liu Shasha rushed over and pushed me towards the lake. There were no ray whitigs and neither Zoe nor I could swim. But Zoe pushed me away and pulled Liu Shasha into the lake with him. Liu Shasha struggled in the water. Zoe laughed, crazed and obsessive. I gave you a life. Can we start over? Maniac. I grabbed a life ring from the nearby pavilion and threw it, then called campus security. Chapter 11. Both were hospitalized. The lakeside surveillance clearly showed Liu Shasha pushing me, and Zoe's grab was seen as a reflex to save himself. Liu Shasha was detained after waking up. She knew we couldn't swim and pushed us into the water, attempting murder. Despite her long-standing interference, I kindly visited her. She looked terrible, with short hair and a sallow complexion, lacking the vitality that once attracted Zoe. I always wondered how she stayed by Zoe's side for so long. Maybe it was like attracting light. Zoe, suffering, saw her as a bright sun, illuminating his life. Or maybe his insecurity made him feel more unbalanced with me, turning all Feewittigs into jealousy and hatred. But it didn't matter anymore. Liu Shasha glared at me. Too bad I didn't kill you. You have everything and now even Zoe. You must be gloating, laughing at me for getting nothing, like a clown. I couldn't help but laugh. I don't need to laugh at you in my heart. I'm here to laugh at you in person. She furiously pounded on the window, wanting to tear me apart. But she was trapped in a small room, unable to harm me. Seeing her miserable state, I was satisfied. As for Zoe, who caused my death, he had to atone for his past life sins. I wouldn't support him, and neither would any company allied with White Group. If he had the ability, he could earn scholarships. But he couldn't. I studied hard and tutored classmates with similar grades, aiming to surpass him. Zoe silently endured, not daring to complain, only looking at me with pleading eyes, which disgusted me. After graduation, he applied to White Group. But White Group would never hire him. Without my prompting, my father refused to employ someone with poor character. Zoe couldn't find a job, working part-time and doing odd jobs to barely make ends meet. He couldn't pay the medical bills, and his mother was kicked out of the hospital. They lived in a damp basement, and I didn't care how long she would last. As long as they suffered. Chapter 12. People of equal status, with similar views and values. I followed my father's advice and got along well with his old friend's son. We shared common interests, were honest and respectful, supported each other in life, and were evenly matched at work. I didn't have to please him, and he didn't maliciously misinterpret me. When we entered a restaurant together, we saw Zoe working as a part-time waiter. He approached our table, looking nervous and hopeful. Linda, this is... I didn't hesitate to shatter his illusion. My boyfriend, Cheng Yan. Cheng Yan knew about my past with Zoe. I asked if he minded, and he said he wanted to be the next and last person I cared about so much. The one who didn't cherish me would never have another chance. Cheng Yan smiled confidently. Hello, I'm Yan's boyfriend and fiancé. Nice to meet you. We're getting married in a month. If you're free, you can come and witness our important moment. He held my hand, his eyes showing a hint of possessiveness, as if protecting his territory. I gave him a reassuring look. Though he invited Zoe to the wedding, he didn't take out an invitation card. Clearly, he didn't want to. I didn't expose him and tapped the tablet to order. I've finished ordering. You can leave now. Zoe, embarrassed, lowered his head. I really have no chance, do I? I ignored him and discussed our date plans with Cheng Yan. Zoe silently walked away. I thought he would never bother me again. Chapter 13. My name is Zoe. Seeing the once proud and radiant Linda collapse in anger, I felt a strange satisfaction. Look, no matter how rich you were, it all belongs to me now. I watched her breathing weaken and stop, feeling a sudden, heavy thud in my heart. Anxiety, panic, and some indescribable emotions. I forced myself to ignore these feelings, focusing on my career and taking care of Liu Shasha. But I wasn't as focused as I thought. Returning home from work, I seemed to hear Linda's laughter, calling me. Zoe, come quick. I made your favorite dish. Try it. During business dinners, I seemed to see Linda whispering in my ear. Zoe, don't drink so much. Your stomach will hurt. What broke me was seeing Liu Shasha with a young man, laughing and chatting like she did with me in college. I knew what it meant. Liu Shasha invited me to hike, saying it was the best way to bond. I thought she had a change of heart and felt touched. But at the cliff's edge, she pushed me when I wasn't looking. I died, my soul white gearing, watching Liu Shasha's fake morning and her excitement counting my assets at night. Soon, she brought the young man home. The cycle repeated. I brought San and now she brought someone else. Before fading away, I remembered all the good Linda had done for me. I should have loved her, but insecurity blighted me. When I opened my eyes, I was back in college. I immediately got out of bed to find Linda. Thankfully, there was still time. No, it seemed too late. This Linda was different, no longer caring for me. I couldn't take her for granted. She even suppressed me, seeking revenge, which I deserved. Let me spend my life atoning. The next time I saw her, she was with her fiancé. Though I hated to admit it, he was much better than me, making me unable to feel jealous. I could only wish them well. And I would rot in the gutter for the rest of my life. As she wished.